What does that
Because it like makes you high, I think, in that same way that if you breathe a lot in and out, and then you hold the skin on your neck or whatever, like this, like it's just like I think it's like you get hyper oxygenated.
The long light in July. Oh, time to go. Whole thing, and then it didn't record. So I was thinking about the water signs and how they're so intuitive, and I was thinking the sign Cancer makes me think of the word superstitious in particular. I was watching a reading by Colette Baron Reid, who I love, and it was like interesting how she was like so particular. She was like, I every time have to do this many cards and this formation, this way, and this is how I do it, and just a little different than my style. I'm a Scorpio. Um, yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about the nuances between the water signs because it feels important for the period of time that we're in. Um, yeah, I believe we are still in the beginning section of Cancer and the first decan of Cancer, which is Cancer, Cancer. So it's like double Cancer energy, and so it's like the first degrees of Cancer are particularly concerned with lineage and with feeling, with maternal care. These may be themes coming up. Thinking of how the crab walks sideways. Maybe a situation in your life where you're having to come at it sideways. You know, you're having to be a little sneaky. Remember those crabs? First of all, their shell is their home. It's on their back. And security is a huge thing for cancer signs. And a lot of the ritualistic or superstitious stuff has to do with finding that security. And all the water signs I do see as like witches in a way. But the witchcraft of Cancer is how do we how do we feel safe? How do we create safety? How do I lead others? Because it's a cardinal sign, which is the leader. How do we lead others towards safety? And really that leading with maternal care, leading with familial love for mankind is really what the ultimate Cancer would be. And bringing nurturing to the public specifically is what is important for Cancers. Bringing laughter, bringing Robin Williams was a Cancer. I say the public because the career can often be, remember, the sun is the career, and also sorry, the sun is a career, and the sun is in Cancer. When the sun's in Cancer, that means that like the career could, first of all, for the collective, the career could be experiencing sort of a cyclical situation where there's ups and downs. There's maybe a family experience happening at the career. Maybe family themes are happening at the career. But I was also going to say, being opposite Capricorn, it just is a sign that has a chance to have a big public facing career in general. Cancers, the Cancers that I have met can be just as vengeful as Scorpio, but they're not as planned out. They're not as strategic because it's a younger sign. It's under the equator. It's their needs have to do with it's similar to Libra, this sign actually, where they really care about beauty and interior design. They like are a little bit materialistic with the opposition to Capricorn, but also just with the need for security and the sort of desire to not keep things light, but it sort of is about me and my emotions, me and my feelings, which makes a little bit of a tunnel vision for Cancer. They can be crabby, but they can be hilarious. They can be moody. It can be, quick to anger, but they can be quick to softness and silliness. I don't know. It's a very strange sign, not in a bad way, but some of these themes are just maybe coming up for the collective for you. Also, depending on how Cancer hits your chart, that there's an experience where you're feeling many moods and many almost many experiences, many impressions, almost as the moon and the tide are related and they're constantly changing and interplaying with each other. You might want to look just for if you're tuning into this reading into what phase the moon was when you were born. For example, for myself, I believe it was waxing gibbous, which is like someone who really wants to like tell long stories to people, which is definitely true for me. Like give information to people, and it affects everyone in different ways. There's something here about slowing way down. I heard that today, slowing down. I'm gonna get back to the Cancer sign in a second. So just slowing down, like everything. Like if you're someone who drives a lot, like drive slower and pay more attention. And my grandfather or my step grandpa used to tell me, pay attention. This is one piece of advice for life is pay attention. And there's just something here about needing to pay attention. It's almost like you would pay attention if you're on a road where there's deer. There's something in your life where you need to just pay a lot more attention. Not that there's danger, but there's capacity for something to be more difficult than it has to be, is what I'm hearing. And the Cancer sign, there's just like a chance to get into some maybe superstitious stuff here with the Cancer sign. And I was gonna say, the Scott's reading the entrails. It's that's more of like a Scorpio thing. Scorpio is a very psychic sign, but they're analytical and they're analyzing what they see to see what the future will be, to project ahead. And that also has to do with numbers for Scorpio and calculations. And then Cancer, they're not so much looking ahead. They're trying to use the now to understand what's coming. Different thing there. So their divination might be more, instead of looking at the entrails, which is so first of all related to Scorpio because Scorpio rules the bowels and root and really the root chakra stuff down there. Um, Sexual organs. Anyway, so the entrails relates, but Cancer might be more concerned with going in, like listening to the ocean, and every day they go to the ocean and they see what the waves are like. And today they went to the ocean and the waves are different, and that must mean something's changed. Okay, it's a different, it's a different thing. Whereas Scorpio's like, what do we need to know about what's coming? What do we need to sort of be afraid of? And then Cancer is like, how do we create? What do we need to know to create security? And yeah, Cancer has those like claws. They can be kind of intense if they're angry or they feel hurt. That I think, did I mention the materialism? There's just like a focus on uh design or aesthetics in a different way than the other water signs. Pisces is similar. Pisces also likes to make things nice and beautiful, but Cancer is an artist in how they put things together. So I don't know if interior design is important right now. Just thinking of some of the people I've met in my life who've had Cancer, sign energy, like particularly Cancer sun and what they were like. Something very imaginative about cancers. Um, so just leaning into the imagination of life, the sort of it does real childhood and motherhood, leaning into some of the possible mother wound issues that some of the collective that's watching may have, leaning into listening to that. We all have imperfect caregivers. No one's perfect. So there's bound to be some wounds. I have a book in my head that I'm thinking, I think it's the author is Scott Peck. I think it's called Toxic Parents or something like that. I'm also thinking of The Dance of Anger by Harriet Lerner, who's a great writer. That's really, I think that's for women, but it's great for men to read too. Or it may be for both, but she's written books for women specifically. But there's somebody watching who it's like you keep getting messed up with your anger. You keep getting all messed up, like effed up. Just thinking of a face being scrunched up. It's like you're angry, but then you're resentful, but then you want to do things that you feel like you should do, but then it's like you have to just commit to things that you're doing and just commit to them. And also this has to do with forgiveness and forgiving other people. It doesn't mean, there may be people also I'm sensing that you have to forgive and not engage with anymore. And it's like there's something here about like feeling like a, a martyr that can be related to the Cancer sign. There's some martyring. Like you felt like, oh, I always do everything, and they're like, oh, I want to be free. But like the truth is, if we love others, you know, there is a bit of non-freedom that comes with that. I mean, and there's boundaries, and there's times to boundary up, and there's times to give others the love that perhaps they weren't able to give us. And every situation's different. But Cancer is a loving, caring sign. It's a sign of home and family and just sort of cozy energy. Like Cancers are warm and fuzzy people, and there's an innocence to Cancer. There's a childlike, be my friend energy to Cancer. There's the differences between the water signs are really amazing. Like I would say, if they all met in a bar, Pisces and Scorpio would find Cancer a little bit dictatorial because they are a cardinal sign, and Scorpio would probably silently let them lead, knowing that they have the real power in some ways, and then because they're more strategic, and then Pisces would be like, "This is interesting that this person is so taking charge." So there's something about taking charge here in your life, about like the Chariot card. And then Pisces would just be a little bit like removed and be like, "This is interesting. What's happening here?" 'Cause Pisces has a sharp mind, and they would want to, rather than analyze like Scorpio and project what may happen, they want to feel what may be happening. Okay, and so then Cancer comes off as a little bit self-absorbed to these other water signs. Comes off as Cancer comes off as like me and my feelings. I'm constantly going through emotional turmoil. I'm having drama. I'm upset. I'm sad. I don't know how to manage my feelings. And Scorpio's like, I keep my feelings hidden because I don't know who I can trust. And they're so intense and so deep that only I can experience them sometimes. So basically, I'm an actress. That's what Scorpio does. They're like, get your stuff under control, Cancer. And then, but also there's a real chance for Scorpio and Cancer to help each other feel. And Cancer's sort of immediate feeling gives Scorpio impetus to just be and just feel a little bit and sort of loosen up. And then when Scorpio does do that and let out some of this intense feeling and emotions and energy, then Cancer nurtures and finds actually inspiration in Scorpio's strength, in Scorpio's transformational quality that they can overcome these feelings. I don't know. These are just some themes that might be coming up. I'm imagining these three water signs in a bar is what I'm doing. So, and then Scorpio can be the strength for Cancer. So there may be some, I'm maybe doing a little parts work here. Have you ever done parts work therapy? It's IFS, Interfamily Systems, where it's like, I did that for a year. I've done a lot of different modalities of therapy, but it's sort of like there's these different parts of us, and there's protector parts, and there's other parts, and I don't know all the like terminologies, but like usually the protector parts in particular are protecting parts of us that we don't want to feel. Anyway, so that's just coming up. That may be something you want to look into. But if we're thinking of this IFS experience where three water signs are in a bar, which they may be because they may all be prone to the drink. Remember, water sign. Um, okay, so then Scorpio's strength does inspire everybody actually. Also Pisces, because Pisces is strong, uh, but they're not transformational in the same way. Whereas Scorpio regenerates and regrows and n- dies and is born again, maybe several times in their life. And that's something foreign to other water signs. And to them, the Scorpios to Cancer and Pisces seems really like intense and a little weirdly quiet, but then good at like talking and seems controlled, seems knowledgeable about a variety of subjects that they seem to have researched or studied. The Scorpio has a healing energy that can heal people and themselves. So the both the water signs like that. And then the Scorpio can seem a little too intense to these signs also, just a little too powerful, a little too much energy, a little too fierce, a little too strong, a little too I can do anything. Bravery is a little intense. And they may be a little more nonconformist. Then Pisces is the older of three, the oldest. So they're the big ocean. Scorpio is the depth, and Pisces is the breadth. Pisces is going down to the depths of the ocean, the deep feelings, and Pisces is all the feelings of the collective, of everyone. And one thing that's important about Pisces is they will have the the 12th house in Aquarius, which makes them basically very Aquarius-like, which people forget, even if they're not on the cusp or anything, because Pisces rules the 12th house. So then the Aquarius is like, they're like hidden activists, and they have a hidden stubborn side, and they have hidden care for the collective and hidden nonconformity. But Pisces has a gentleness that don't misconstrue that. Doesn't mean they're not powerful, but their gentleness is that they're less subjective than the other water signs. They're more wise, and actually, even though they embody all the signs, they have all the personalities of all the signs below. So they really have like many personalities, Pisces, and a lot of changeability in their identity. There's a deep compassion to Pisces that is gleaned from being a little once removed. So a Pisces comes off as a little bit holier than thou to the other water signs, a little bit like they're the teacher, and then the Scorpio and Cancer are the students, and the Pisces is intuitive in a different way. They just know. They just know, and they don't know how they know. And of course, a lot of these signs can be in your chart in different ways. You may have all three of these. I have like definitely influences of all of these in my chart that are really strong. So I don't know. I'm just bringing these characters to mind. Somebody I knew who was a Cancer was like really into interior design, like it was her life, and it was almost like you couldn't blame her for being materialistic because she just had such good taste. And it was an art in the way she like found things and you know curated and put spaces and places together. She really had a skill, and she was like that where she was sort of superstitious and controlling, but and like she was a leader, but she was I want to say there was magic in how she did things, and there was like an interesting childlike innocence. And then I'm a Scorpio, but I feel like other Scorpios I've known. Let me think. I don't feel like I've known that. Oh, I can think of one person. Scorpio is very secretive, which I didn't mention. Like, Scorpios may just like change their entire life and maybe just like leave everyone they've known, or you know, they can travel. Second houses in Sagittarius, they can be less settled in their lives in ways that the other water signs are settled. Anyway, Scorpios are really obsessed with relationship, the 12th house in Libra, right? And they also usually have a lot of Libra in the chart. So not that the other water signs aren't into relationship, but Scorpio really like may have issues where they define themselves by their relationship, and just mentioning that. And then Pisces. Sorry. I was just thinking of somebody I knew who sort of disappeared. They were a Scorpio. They're very mysterious, and it was hard to know what they were really feeling because they really put on such a good show in some ways of their life and how they felt. And it wasn't until years later that sort of things changed and the dynamics of their life changed because they revealed some feelings that they had and some experiences that were negative. Anyway, secretiveness is coming up for Scorpio and the people I've known who are Scorpios, and also just that hypnotic ability to focus on something and learn something, to really space out and obsess over some skill or some ability. And then Pisces people that I've known have been changeable, mutable. There's deep compassion. It's been a great study in human nature knowing Pisces. There's deep compassion and uh, care for mankind. There's giving qualities, but there's annihilation because Pisces is death. There's a skill in knowing when something is over, which some people don't have. And there's the Pisces person that I was affected by in my life was very she didn't really like care what people thought in a way, and she was very aware of everyone's feelings. She was tuned into everyone's feelings. So these are just some thoughts. Sorry, it's a weird reading, but I don't know if somebody watching is like having water sign issues with these people. This could also be in your chart, in your moon sign, your rising sign, your sun sign. Just keeping in mind some of those things. The scorpion stinger, I didn't mention the animals for Scorpio and Pisces. The scorpion stinger may be coming up in some of the energy here. Somebody feeling like somebody got revenge, or You feel like someone was vengeful. The scorpion is sensitive and they often get hurt. And so the defense mechanism is the stinger. It's get away, don't you hurt me again. Because the Scorpio can see exactly where to hurt someone because they've been paying attention and observing, and they don't fight outright. They hit someone where it hurts from a different angle. So just to keep that in mind, you may be dealing with somebody like that who you think that everything's okay, but they may just be upset with you and do something scorpionic. And it's not to say that this is an evil thing. This is a self-protective measure that Scorpios take. So just watching that tendency within ourselves as well. It's like, how much do we really need to take revenge on anyone? Does it really even help? And sometimes there are situations where, like, I'm just going to balance the scales a little bit here. Sometimes we're standing up for ourselves. You know, being vengeful can just be taking what's rightfully ours or making karma a little clear to someone in terms of standing up for ourselves and our rights. Because remember, Scorpio transforms to the eagle, which is really the pinnacle of self-esteem in my mind. And sees above mankind, sees all of humanity from whence removed. And then Pisces is the two fish that are swimming life and death, birth and death, life, rebirth. And it's like childhood and old age, middle age and teenagehood, like all of the things, all mixed up, the angels and devils of life and death. It's an incarnation that can be hard for people. The fish relates to Christ as well. Um, and some people believe that Christ was a Pisces, but the incarnation of Pisces can be like, you just see so much of humanity that you can get caught up in the sort of energy of whatever's coming up that you lose yourself. That may be a theme for you, that you feel like you've lost yourself in some situation. Okay, so we got the Six of Cups reversed. There's some feeling of loss of innocence here. Something that you were working with others and you felt like working with others wasn't yielding what you wanted in some way. And it was harder to work with people when you felt your loss of innocence. You're recovering from poverty. You're coming out of some time of struggle and some time of financial duress. And there's something here about like just shifting our perspective, finding gratitude in what we have, finding joy and peace in what's at hand. Ten of Wands. You felt really burdened. You feel, you know what, you felt burdened because that there was like a finality, there was like an end of a cycle, that you were ready for something to be done, and you felt overwhelmed or just feeling this like feeling on my back, like there's a bunch of like bags on my back. Oh, it makes me want to cry. You just felt like you were being crushed and like there wasn't anything you could do. There wasn't anything you could do. There wasn't anything. There's something here about just like uh finding ways that our emotions can speak to each other with all the profiles of the water signs. Because, I'm a Scorpio, we're incredibly sensitive, and I feel like, I mean, not that the other water signs aren't, but in terms of depth of emotions, Scorpios are the deepest feelers. And I feel like there's something about fixation here where sometimes Scorpios, they have trouble letting go of something they're focused on because there's such great focusability. Something about like getting into the other realms of reality. Okay, I was doing some uh, astral projection, not on purpose, but I was just seeing some sort of views of some different people I knew today and what they were doing, not because I was near them, but just seeing it in my mind's eye. And I was thinking about, it's almost like looking at a play where there's different, uh, like, rooms. You know, I used to see a lot of theater, so there was, like, different, it's like a set design. I don't know if you felt like you were, like everything was staged in your life, okay? And you felt it was like the Truman Show or something. It was like suddenly you had this almost break with the Ten of Swords, Ten of Wands, where you were just like, I can't like see things this way anymore. I was talking a little about quantum superposition, superpositioning. Really, what that is Schrodinger's cat, which I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's like so. Schrodinger's like, okay, there's a cat in bag. He's trying to actually point out that physics can't be used in everyday life. It's more broad than that. But the example is there's a cat in a bag, and I guess it relates to the idiom the cat's out of the bag, but there's a cat in a bag, and it's like, is it dead or alive? And we can't know for sure until we have like a singular truth, like, or that's not the right phrase, until we have like some concrete truth that it is alive, and actually hearing it breathe is not proof. We have to open it up and see it. So until we actually do that, even though common sense would be like, there's a cat in that bag, until we actually do that, there's the possibility that the cat is both dead and alive at the same time in the bag. Yeah, it's like basic stuff, but it's also not with the all the profiles that I did of the water signs and how they relate to each other. It's probably no one will watch, but it's like okay, sorry. How does this relate, spirit? When I was watching people that I knew doing things from my mind's eye, from my chakra, my third eye chakra, which is an important chakra for this reading, I realized that like I don't know when in time or where in time that is. Could be in the past, could be in the future. I don't know why I'm seeing it. I don't know why I was chosen to have these skills and gifts. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm being shown these people, and I actually don't know what their state is. I don't know if they're happy or sad. I don't know. You know, I can only feel what I think they feel because I know I'm connected to other people's energy fields, but I can only postulate. I can only guess. There's something here in your life like that. Okay, this is getting a little vague, but you're just like assuming. Don't. That's what I was hearing. It's one of the four agreements. No, don't make assumptions. Okay, that's really important for the third eye reading because so there's a little bit of a weird dichotomy here where it's like you may like be seeing things in your mind's eye and then you're trying to like make this logical sense of it. Like, what does that mean? Why am I seeing that? Or for me, I'm clairaudient, so I've had a lot of experiences where I've heard crazy stuff, especially in houses that were haunted. Like, uh, for example, I was staying in a haunted house for a couple months, and I for like 2 months I heard this noise in the morning every day and thought it was a person. It was not, and it was just a repeat energy field that was like cycling over and over, and I had to just tune it out. I've had many experiences like that, and it's just something I have to live with, and it runs in my family, and that relates to the Cancer sign is sort of intuitive gifts that we may have from the lineage. But I had to learn not to question why this happens to me, to embrace this gift, and to just sort of like carry on, keep calm and carry on. It's what you got to do. There's something in your life where maybe you came close to some treacherous situation and you got out unscathed, and you're asking like why. Maybe there's some survivor's guilt here, and you're trying to like put it together like logical, but there's something about trusting what's not logical and allowing for there to be magic. Thinking of the magician card, thinking of the tools at your disposal. uh I'm just thinking the words ultimate compassion, bodhisattva. Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit. Bodhisattva, the Nine of Pentacles reversed. You're meant to, in terms of connecting with your third eye chakra and maybe seeing things or hearing, experiencing things. Um, don't be scared as like more intuitions come, because just trust that there's important things that you need to know to carry on, and it has to do with just putting one foot in front of the other, and stop trying to make sense of really anything, especially from the past. Cancer rules the past, and just going over and mulling over it, it's not helpful at this time. There may be a time for that. There may be a time in the future where looking at these past issues is helpful, but right now it's time to go forward. Cancer is a sign about, it's a cardinal sign, so it's about leading the way into the new season. It's about charging forward, it's about leadership. So don't harp on what's done. What's done is what I'm hearing. And don't try to like analyze. Analysis paralysis, I'm hearing that too. But with this Schrodinger's cat, it's like, is it in the bag or out of the bag? It's like, is it dead or alive? It's like, I feel like you are the cat right now. It's like you've been in a half dead, half alive state, and you just need to like actually be a little nicer to yourself. Be a little kinder to yourself. Have a little bit of tenderness, because Knight of Pentacles reversed, you've been working pretty hard actually to create some abundance for yourself, and pat yourself on the back. It may not be what you envisioned, but you are more independent than you have been. You are more on your own than you have been. And you envisioned that in your third eye. You saw it. You said, I want to do this. I want to have a better situation. And now it's happening. And it's happening slowly. It's like a lotus flower opening. And just don't be afraid. I'm hearing the words, you can't go home again, which is from one of my favorite writers, Thomas Wolfe. You can't go home again. It's from Look Homeward, Angel. I think I've done a reading about it before, but I'm a big reader. I also feel like mentioning Faulkner here, which is like just some stories of the Old South. Superstitious is a good word that comes in for Faulkner. Um, Faulkner would write stories about like about people who had magical powers that had like things wrong with them, basically, as one of the storylines. Um, but in terms of Thomas Wolfe and you can't go home again, Spirit's telling me like there's just something that like you can't go back, and it may actually be home, and it may be very painful. And thinking of Metatron's cube again, that seems random, but it's something I channeled before. It has 16 or 13 circles, I think 13, that make up the blueprint of the universe, Metatron's cube. And if you think of Metatron's cube, that means that its energy is near. There's just something about transforming and healing and allowing radical healing in your body. I want you to imagine your healed self as like this glowing being, and everything is this glowing being that's separate from you, and everything that you've ever worried about, everything that's sort of happened, trauma, it's all like scraped away, or maybe squeegeed away, or maybe like a rag that's being wrung out of water. You can imagine that with me. All this pain and trauma, fear, suffering, it's all being wrung out of your inner body, of the inner emotional body. As you see this higher self, glowing being, this healed self step into your body. What does that feel like? And really see it and really imagine it. Physical features, maybe ailments, illnesses, mental and emotional problems, and really, really feel it. What does it feel like to be free of all that? What does it feel like? What does it feel like to be healed? What does it feel like to let go?